All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to, I'll name the segment later, GTG. Oh man, GTG spits that grease, so on and so forth. Title forever in the works. Trying very hard to hold back this evil laugh of mine. It's a condition. I'm working my way through it. I'm working my way through it. Hopefully you guys are doing all right. All right, if the title hasn't given me away yet, we're going to be talking about DSP wanting to force people to like him, which is weird in itself. And we're also going to speak on how the kick chat is useful and how he needs it. Okay, that's a thing, I suppose. So the long and short, because DSP is a control junkie, because he has no control of himself or anything else in his life, so he tries to control what little he can, and he does that like most people who are weak. They try to control weaker people beneath them or around them, and by doing that, it makes them feel more powerful. So with that being said, DSP has always wanted to be accepted. You know, like right now, he's at the stage of his life where if he can just get a rise out of you, if he can hold on to your attention, good, bad, or otherwise, mainly bad, he can live with that. But there was a time, and I still think he does want this, whether he lives long enough to obtain it is a whole nother thing itself. But there was a time where he wanted real acceptance. He wanted he wanted approval, which he still does. He wants approval from his detractors, trolls, haters, and critics. But he wanted real acceptance. He wanted friendship. He wanted companionship. These are things that he doesn't have. He's never had it, and he'll never have it. One of the reasons why is because he doesn't look at people as people. They're disposable objects. They're pieces on his metaphysical board that he moves around to make his life better, to make his life more meaningful and comfortable for himself, and not for them. That's the reason why the Panda relationship failed. That's why the friendship with John Howard, OJ fell apart. That's why the situation with Team Hate ended up fucking falling apart and shit when he threw them under the bus when he was trying to go at Triforce. And I don't know why he did that, given the way Triforce was moving back in them days and who he was moving with. And that was going to lead into a problem. That's why DSP left Team Hate before he ended up getting beat up, because he was damn sure going to get those guys beat up if he had stuck around, and so on and so forth. So anyway, we're going to hear DSP's small-minded fucking narrative as it pertains to controlling people and people liking him and wanting people to like him. And which, one of the major problems with that, ladies and gentlemen, is DSP doesn't know who he is as a person. That's why he has all these different traits and characteristics from other people that have been around him. John, Howard, OJ, Nelson, fucking Panda, even Cat. He's absorbed these little quirks and stuff they have of their personality, and he's incorporated it into himself. And it's because those are traits that he either picked up from just being around them, or traits that he likes, or they're traits that he saw other people like in those people. And so he absorbed it in himself, and it doesn't work that way. And that's why he can't get along with nobody, because he's so scared of people seeing him for what he really is. That's why DSP is so addicted to lying to people. You know what I'm saying? That's why DSP is a rageaholic. Because he doesn't want anybody to see who he really is, because there's no one there. There is no real DSP, Dark Side Phil, Phil Burnell, Dark Geppetto. Well, that's a whole nother story the other day, but the Dark Geppetto is definitely a thing. Ask Derek. But there is no real person. There is no real, who is the real Phil Burnell? He doesn't exist. He doesn't exist. That's why the Mike Clem interview didn't happen, or that's one of the reasons. You know what I'm saying? It is what it is. That's why he'll jump onto something, ride it throughout his success, if you want to call it success, and then he'll give it up and move on to something else, and then think he can circle back around to it later. None of this stuff means anything to him. They're all just disposable commodities. They're just there to exist. You know what I'm saying? And that's the reason why he treats his dents the way he treats them. You know what I'm saying? Because sooner than later, a new dent will come along, someone else to be bled, right? So if he loses one or two, who gives a shit? He'll bring in one or two. At least that's what he used to think. Of course, time has not been very generous to Darkside Phil, so that didn't happen, and rightfully so. So that's the thing. And actually, ironically enough, you see that a lot with the Kick Chat, right? Like Kick Chat is unruly because that's just the nature of Kick itself. If DSP had spent a little bit more time with that instead of chasing PPP and Andy's dicks, he would have known that, but he didn't care. You know what I'm saying? He needed someone, basically the new John and Howard, to go at Review Tech USA. And then he was hoping to use them to target Gundam, Medicare, Mutahar, and so on and so forth. They were meant to just, PvP and Andy were always meant to be just attack dogs for DSP. And then he was hoping to build himself up enough, and this is my own personal opinion, to show side scrollers that, hey, I look at where I'm at now. I've got better equipment. I've cleaned myself up, this, that, and the third. You guys have no reason to not accept me. You guys owe me, to be honest. And DSP, I think, really feels that way. You can see that in the Stuttering Craig interview that he had. He's like, you owe me. I went up there, I did my 5-hour humiliation, interrogation, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, I lied to you guys for 5 hours, but an answer is an answer. It doesn't matter if it's true or not. An answer is still an answer. Now you owe me. Now I get to go up there and I get to play nice and shit, and you guys have to treat me like a real person now, and this, that, and the third, because he's so fucking retarded that he doesn't realize that 5-hour interview, interrogation, humiliation ritual, whatever you want to call it, that was you, and that was your first opportunity to present yourself to the audience, to be honest, to show them who the real DSP, Darkside Phil Burnell, Dark Geppetto is. DSP don't see that. He looks at it as, okay, that's the definitive interview. You guys bring me back, and now the slate gets wiped clean. And that's not how that works. That's legitimately not how that works with anybody. But if you're fucking mentally ill, then you're not going to know left from right, up from down. It's kind of scary. And as it pertains to Kick, like I said, Kick was a means to an end, but now Kick runs it. There's way more traffic on Kick than there is on YouTube. And yet Kick has more bans than YouTube does probably at this point, which makes no sense because that's where his money's at, theoretically. Well, it's not, to be honest with you. That's the reason why he bans as heavy as he does on Kick. Because he really don't make no money over there. Because the way the partnership contract works over there, if he was solely streaming over there, that'd be one thing. But because he dual streams, they cut I don't know what the percentage is. I don't know how they deduct it or whatever. But it's whatever his pay would be, it's basically like, let's just say it's cut in half. It may not necessarily be half, but let's just go with that for right now, for the sake of my analogy. So he's making less than nothing. Like, you know what I'm saying? He's literally making pennies on the dollar over there. You know what I'm saying? If we're talking about just the partner program, I'm not talking about kicks, but just the partner program itself. It's not like the Twitch bounty board, right? It's not like that where you play a game and depending on how many people you have per hour will depend on how much you make. It's not like that. It's kind of structured like that, but it's not. And especially since he dual streams, there you go. So that's another deficit against him. So he just kind of puts up with it because if he doesn't have the Kick Chat there, ladies and gentlemen, if he doesn't have Kick, then he's just dying on YouTube. At least with Kick, he can look at them and be like, okay, those 70 or 80 people that are dropping the N-word and everything else over there, that's at least propping him up. So in his own little sick little mind, it makes sense, but in reality, it doesn't make sense to anybody but him. In any case, let's go ahead and move on with that. They've come into my pseudo TED Talk, so to speak. And let's get into the task at hand, if you will.
All right, I got a $2 tip.
Shut up. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's give proper introductions. Big ups to Raw Phil. Big ups to me, I guess, because I was the one who cut this. Because Diggs is on vacation. Asian GTG has a bunch of stuff going on, and our other editor is working on some stuff on her end and whatnot, even though she was very willing to do it. But you know what I'm saying, you gotta stand on your own too and whatnot. I am the captain of my own ship, so to speak. So it is what it is, but I very much appreciate that. So this was cut by me. Big ups to Chio, as always, and whatnot. Big ups to all y'all. And yeah, let me give you, what was the title I gave to this damn thing? It'll be short. Okay, DSP speaks on trying to force people to like him, and the kick chat is useful. Sorry, and needed. This is from August 3rd of 2026. Oh my Christ. Well, without further ado, here we go.
All right, I got a $2 tip. This person said, my chair's sunk into the mat. You know what happens when his office chair sinks into a certain spot of the map and it feels like it's depressed in there? Annoying. Trying to get to reposition here. Okay, so this person tipped $2, says, how do you feel about the majority of your kick audience enjoying you on an ironic level, the same way someone enjoys a bad movie? Are you okay with being enjoyed, but not the way you enjoy?
I mean, truth be told, it was always like that, though. DSP was never, like, if you really talk to people, the few people that I've talked to, they weren't even dense, to be honest, because they never gave him money. But they did enjoy his content super early on. They were, I'm going to be honest, they were just young and stupid. They didn't know. Like, they didn't know better, like, content until it eventually happened. And that's literally DSP's only, or it was, his only real advantage. He was first. And DSP is one of the examples in life, by the way. He's one of the examples why sometimes being first isn't great. It isn't a good thing because everything else is measured against that. And if you're not willing to improve on that, on the muscle, on the strength of that, then you'll be left behind. And that's the reason why people call him a dinosaur. That's why people call him outdated. Even his setup, the way you see it now, this broken down, halfway crook type setup and shit is lame as hell. For all the money that he brings in, he should have a legitimate shelf behind him. He should have a way to display his background and whatnot that is suited to what he does. But then that goes back to what I said earlier. He's a sponge. This is just a cheap knockoff of an imitation of what something that Max has or some other YouTuber or streamer who has like an aesthetically pleasing background that displays their interests. That's what DSP wants. But one, he's too lazy to build it, first off. And two, it's gonna come off as a cheap imitation. He knows that, but he needs to sell it to people like it's actually his idea, right? And this actually speaks to who he is. And that's why he's failed for all these years. He's run around trying to imitate other people who are well-liked and well-respected, and he wants to be them. The problem is he shitted on them for years. Like, imagine you shitting on Justin Wong and Maximilian and the FGC at large for years. Then you fall into a little money or just an extended, credit line. And then you literally copy them. You literally copy them. And then you have this coming of Jesus moment, if you will. The Snorty savior has arisen and he has seen the Gouty light and realized, oh, well, I was wrong, but see, now I'm changing, so now everything's cool. Fuck you. On top of that, I'm working on this side project. I am going to present to you, I want to look back on how the Pokemon nonsense and all this other bullshit, this whole card thing, this whole card arc, I want us to take a second look at how it actually started and where it started. That's all I'm gonna say for now, but we're gonna take a look at that. We're gonna take a look at that. I'm gonna cut that up in a few days. There's a few places where I know I can find it and whatnot, and we'll go from there. But expect that coming up in the future. We're gonna take another look at how this shit really came about and who's the real puppet master behind this situation. It'll be fun. It'll be fun. Anyway, let's get back to it.
And I don't care as long as it's not toxic or harmful. You know what I'm saying? Like, I understand you can't make everyone like you.
Why would you want everybody to like you? Like, here's the thing. If you don't like me or you don't like what I do, cool. You shouldn't have to force yourself to like me, and I shouldn't go out of my way to make myself worthy of being liked by you. We're both being retarded at that point. Well, retards for sure, but we're both being rather retarded at that point. It is what it is. Like, you know what I'm saying? There's a lot of people that I watch. I don't necessarily like them, but I do think they're either informative or they have insight. But it's not personal. You know what I'm saying? It's not personal like that. And it shouldn't be. You shouldn't want parasocial relationships where people are more focused and invested in you more than what you're saying or what you're presenting. And that's what DSP wants. And why is that, ladies and gentlemen? Because DSP doesn't produce shit. He doesn't produce anything worthwhile. That's why he lures these kids in and these weak-minded people in with the games and the cards and all that bullshit. The reality is, great screenshot by the way, the reality is he wants you to be invested in him. He should be your #1 priority. DSP, Darkside Phil, Phil Burnell, Dark Geppetto. The games and all this other shit, that's secondary. That's there to keep you around, I suppose. That's there to kind of give you another external reason to keep investing in him. But internally, you should care about him. You should value him. You should be willing to put your life and aspects of your life to the side to invest in him. Because it's funny how he never asks anybody to invest in themselves. He never says, hey, any contributions and everything, it would be great, but invest in yourself first before you invest in somebody else. He'll never say that. He doesn't have that in him. And that's not how he makes a living. He doesn't make a living playing games or opening up cards and talking about all that bullshit. He makes his living begging. And if you're a beggar, right, then you need to have parasocial relationships because you need people to be invested in you. You need people to believe that they need you, that you are a component in their life. And if you leave, somehow they are their life will be poorer or less fortunate or less fulfilling without you. That's literally what Phil Burnell has done his whole fucking life. Think about when he yells and screams about the FGC, for example. Oh, I did this, I did that, I did this, I did that. I'm useful. You know what I'm saying? And you guys don't appreciate me, this, that, and third. He wanted people to be dependent on him. He tried to do the same thing with Kino Casino, kind of. You know, hey, you guys make fun of me, but you guys make fun of a bunch of people, but I'm actually talking to you. So that right there is value. And it's not. More value comes from you raging out at them than you ever being there with them. But DSP doesn't see it that way. You see what I'm saying? This gives you an idea of how sick he is. And that's why he defends pedophiles. That's why he grooms young women and shit. Or he sits there and he picks up broken women or broken people in general and loops them into his whole situation. He benefits from the less fortunate and from the weak. And if you can control them, and if you can control them in mass, then he thinks he can manipulate or he can control anybody, which is obviously not true. But that's neither here nor there.
And there's nothing you can do about it. I learned to accept that a very long time ago, and I stopped trying to make everyone like me a long time ago.
That's literally not true. Like the Kino Casino arc kind of proves that shit. He wanted them to like him desperately. I've referenced this before. I think there's a Ludwig World Order video out there. It's like 20, maybe 20 plus minutes. I'm pretty sure Ludwig World Order did it, where it's like 20 plus minutes of DSP defending Kino Casino and saying they'll never snake him. And it's in that, I'm gonna go over it. I will go over that. But it's in that video, you see Phil at his most vulnerable. Because for the first time in a long time, especially coming off of him being rejected by side scrollers in that community, you're finding two guys who he damn sure don't like, but he needs them. And he developed that need, that dependency. That's probably the term I should be using. He developed that dependency on them long before he actually spoke to them, which is scary. It's scary that you got a grown-ass man who is sitting there investing himself in other grown-ass men in that sort of way before ever even meeting them. That's really fucking scary. And that's why the whole snaking thing doesn't hold water. It never did. It never did. You were a jaded lover and shit, basically mad that you got pumped and dumped, basically. you got pumped and dumped. That's what it was, Phil. They built your ass up just so they could end up tearing you down and then dumping you later. And truth be told, DSP did the majority of the work. That's why he needed fucking Review Tech USA for the quote-unquote 666 podcast. Because he couldn't sit there and go at Kino Casino on his own with those DMs. He needed someone else. He needed someone else who was also the basically the recipient of their beatings, if you will, to stand with him. And the thing is fucking Review Tech USA was so drugged up at that time anyway and whatnot. I think Duty was still in his, well, Duty's still in his ear, but Duty was in his ear heavy at that time where he wasn't going to be able to accomplish anything. So he was useless. And this is what DSP wanted. DSP knew that DSP had heard all the jokes and all that bullshit about the THC drinks and more importantly, the gummies. You know what I'm saying? You can debate the drink situation all you want, but or the seltzers or whatever, but the gummies are proven. That's tried and true. And Rich is still on those things. He said his dose is probably lower, but he's still on them things. But anyway, so DSP knew he was vulnerable. He knew that he had developed some type of dependency on it, so he thought he'd be easy to manipulate. In the same way that he tried to manipulate Wings. In the exact same way. Wings was already beaten down. He was already busted up, right? Yeah, he could go back to Lowell Cal Live, but he ain't quit multiple times, so he's clearly not built for it. So DSP was looking at him like he was something to eat. He was easy pickings, even though at that time Wings was just scraps. He was literally table crumbs. It was still free. It was still available, and DSP wanted it because DSP thought he was deserving of it. End of story. This is how he preys upon people. I'm giving you small examples. I can go further, but you know what I'm saying? I'm giving you small examples on how he looks at these people because they're not people. I mean, most of them are Lowell cows anyway, so it is what it is. But you know what I mean? That's what it comes down to. It's a scary way of looking at things, but that's the reality of it.
I learned to accept that a very long time ago, and I stopped trying to make everyone like me a long time ago.
I stopped trying to make people like me. Not to get people to like me, not to get people to accept me, make people like me. Okay.
The way I see it is, you should listen to constructive criticism.
You've never done that, and you still don't do that, so I don't know why that's even a thing. If that was the case, you wouldn't have as many detractors as you do. If you were really listening to constructive criticism, you wouldn't have so many people banned or blocked if you listen to constructive criticism. If anything, how the fuck do you sit there and say that you listen to constructive criticism and then you run around like a bitch and whatnot, from bleeding from every orifice, sitting there crying and complaining about how people say everything I do is bad? Explain that to me, chat. Chat. Sorry. Oh, that's what happens when you stream too much. Even though I don't stream that much, to be honest, but still, it happens when you stream too much. How do you explain that? How is that a thing? I can accept constructive criticism, and then literally in the next snort, I don't understand why people say everything I do is wrong. How does that work? And what is your definition of constructive criticism under those circumstances? I'm asking a question. I'm asking for a friend.
Those who are actually seeking to help you improve and or those who support you, and everything else is just white noise. You know what I'm saying?
If you really believe that, then you really don't have a grasp on what constructive criticism is. Because if it's the people who like your content, like you, and are willing to give constructive criticism, and a demographic that are willing to support you in your endeavors to keep you going, then theoretically he's developed two counter arguments for the same demographic that at the end of the day they won't care. If they have criticisms of him, it doesn't really matter because they're going to give him money anyway to keep him going. So he can disregard the criticisms. The criticism really doesn't matter. That's just a front-facing thing so he can point at and tell detractors, trolls, haters, and critics, nah. These people criticize me all the time, but they still like me and they still show up and they still give me money. So you can't say I don't accept criticism. While at the same time, because they're already in the sunken cost fallacy, they can't really afford to leave anyway because they've already invested too much. Who's that guy recently? There was a mod recently who tried to break ranks. Well, he didn't try to break ranks. He was the mod. He had a mod. I can't think of his name because it doesn't matter. But it does matter. But I just don't give a fuck to care or look it up at the moment. But he had a mod who was apparently a mod for somebody else, for another streamer, a much bigger streamer, a much more successful streamer. And I guess he got outed or they figured out that he was associated with Darkside Phillip, whatever. And he shows up to the stream one day and he finds out that he's unmodded or demodded. And he's like, hey, what's going on? Whatever. And they're like, you just basically guilt by association. Hey, you're associated with another guy. That's too many problems. It's too many issues already. I don't want to deal with it anymore. So it is what it is. I had to kick you to the curb. What does that tell you? And that right there actually reinforces DSP's own narrative. Let me help DSP with this. That actually reinforces DSP's narrative that he's always presented to these dents for shit. At least it's like 20, 2018, 2019, but even before that, where DSP tries to paint the situation that there's no point in you leaving because no one else anywhere else will ever really accept you. Or when they find out that who you're associated with, they're never gonna, you know what I'm saying? They'll never truly accept you because everybody hates me because of the hate mongers and all this bullshit and whatever. Well, theoretically, DSP could point to that and use that as the example. He won't unless his back is really against the wall or those baby backs are really on the push to the grill. But he won't, but he could use that as an excuse because that's what DSP always wanted. He wanted people segregated from other communities, people who will treat them decently or at least treat them with some sort of respect. The very things that DSP don't do. So DSP never wanted these dents to branch out or do any of that shit, ever. Because if they see that there are better options out there, then they're gonna leave them. Just like what happened when the just like what happened when the vloggers came into the gaming sphere when money was able to be made on YouTube. And once all of that, those new people came in, new ideas, better quality, really, and a lot sharper quality and sharper time schedules and just better quality over quantity. I don't need to bloat it up any more than that. What happened was when the vloggers came into gaming, it became quality over quantity. When that happened, DSP was dead. And DSP's been dead ever since. Because what happened was instead of people leaving him right away, which is what DSP will try to tell you, the reality was they came to him and said, hey, this guy does this, or this chick does this. Why can't you do that? Because these people still have jobs, or these people go off and do all this traveling and stuff, and they do this on the side, and they're pulling hundreds of thousands, if not millions of views. Why can't you do that and you do this all day? And that's when the problem came to play. Because the moment competition showed up, then the comparisons showed up. When the comparison showed up, it showed that DSP couldn't compete. He never could. It's very easy to call yourself the whale when you're in a puddle of one. But when that puddle turns into a pond, which turns into, you know what I'm saying, everything else that it turns into, then he got fucked. And that was just the reality of the situation. And he'll never be able to get past that. That's why he hates his detractors, trolls, haters, and critics so much. It's not a matter of it's just a bunch of people who make content on him to make him look bad, which it's really making himself look bad because they go to him for the original source of the material. So I can't make you look worse than on something that you said when you said it, and I'm pulling it off you, or I'm pulling it off someone who's mirroring you. Semantics. But also the quality that some of these people bring in, and the personalities that they bring in. You know what I'm saying? That's what he hates. He's always hated that. And he's always hated the camaraderie that some of those people have. He's always been bothered by that too, because it's something that he doesn't have and he can't obtain. He only knows how to use people and abuse them. And he does that in spades. He doesn't really know how to treat them any other way. So whoever this guy was, this other mod who went off and was okay with someone else and spending a little bit of time with DSP, now he ain't realized his little side piece and sat there and fucked up everything with his wife, so to speak. You know what I'm saying? Whatever. His main objective. And now he's got no choice but to crawl back to DSP because the other chick can't kick his ass out. And that's what you do when you have problematic people in your community like that, especially if they play at that level. Hey man, I can't tell you to show up to the streams or whatnot, but I can remove you from authoritative or even leadership roles within my community because I can't have you there. You know what I'm saying? You got to be mature to do shit like that. I don't know if this mod was giving that guy money or not, or even a lot of money, or even a lot of community supporting gifted subs or memberships or whatever the fuck. I don't know if he was or if he wasn't. But let's say he was. You're walking away from all that for the betterment of your community. That's what you're supposed to do. Not be like DSP and defend pedophiles because you don't know if this deal that you're trying to cut with these guys is going to be a short term and long term, and you don't want to lose nothing. You want to come out of every deal with what you came in with, which is the reason why it took Kino Casino and Josh 20 plus minutes to convince them to get rid of Derek, because he wanted to benefit from that relationship, not lose anything.
Everything else is literally just nonsensical white noise that you don't need to listen to. So
even though he does listen to it, He follows Detractor Twitter. He follows Kiwi Farms. He watches Detractor videos. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, if you really looked at, I really want him to show the watch list on not DSP Reacts, because you would think that's where he watches all that stuff, and he probably watches the majority of it. But I want to see the watch history for DSP Gaming. I bet you find, or if not DSP Gaming, on DSP Throwbacks, formerly KO Gaming. I want to see his watch history on that shit. I bet you see that being said in there. I bet you see it in there multiple times, to be honest. I bet you. And most of you are like, no, why wouldn't he just watch on DSP Reacts, the ads and all that bullshit? Fuck that. DSP knows what ad block is. He'll just go ahead and use one of those other two accounts. He'll go on another browser. He'll click at what already ad block built in, basically, and he'll watch it there. I guarantee it. I guarantee it. So trust me, he's as invested as anybody else. And then, like with the Raw Phil situation about how, oh, these people came to me, they sent me emails or they sent me DMs, but I don't know who they are. So theoretically, they can't send me DMs because I don't know who they are. But they sent me DMs saying that they already took down Raw Phil. Don't worry about it. Like that bullshit. Like, eat a dick. He follows all this because this is what his life is. And Amberlynn Reed and Foodie Beauty from Girl World, they're both like that too. They say they don't watch him. They're reactors over there, but they do. They watch all that shit because they have nothing else. That's what their life is. That's all they have. That's why DSP don't know nothing else. That's why he gets basic game knowledge wrong, because he's too busy watching his detractors, trolls, haters, and critics.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, the Kick chat usually moves 10 times faster than the YouTube chat, but it's a lot of trolling. It's a lot of insults. It's a lot of dumb memes. I allow it to happen simply because, number one, it would be too much work to moderate the damn thing.
That's a lie. But the reality, sorry. Sorry. I jumped the gun. I'm jumping the gun just a little bit. Let me let him breathe before I put my fucking boot on his goddamn neck. Let me let him breathe for a minute.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, the Kick chat usually moves 10 times faster than the YouTube chat, but it's a lot of trolling. It's a lot of insults. It's a lot of dumb memes. I allow it to happen simply because, number one, it would be too much work to moderate the damn thing. And number two, I get paid for it. I make money on people who sit in Kick chat all day typing nonsense.
Now, let's address both of those points. One, I can't control it. Sound like fucking Phoenix from like Marvel vs. Capcom 3. Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3. Sorry. He sounds like fucking Phoenix and shit. I can't control it. And so Dark Phil Rising, or Dark Side Phil Rising, if you will. So we can't control it, so that's why that is. And two, I make money off it. If that's the case, then why are you banning people? Like, why are we banning and blocking people on Kick if you make money off of it? The same money that he's told us in the past, multiple times by the way, that it's pittance. It's nothing. It's damn near next to nothing. He makes pennies on the dollar. He's admitted this multiple times and whatnot. So, how much money are we really making over there? Semantics. Because most of those people don't even gift, they don't gift memberships or subs or whatever they call it on Kick. So, and most of them don't give kicks anyway. So there's that. They're literally just there, but he makes no money on them just being in the chat. And then as it pertains to he can't control it, going back to that again, I'm sorry. What is there to control? According to DSP, just recently, he said that we have Snort Korea, and then we have Gout, and we got Snort Korea, we got Snout Korea, we got Gout Korea, we got Doubt Korea, whatever you want to call it. He has Snort Korea and Gout Korea and whatnot. And Gout Korea, which is supposed to be Kick, they can go over there and be as rowdy as they want, no matter what. And then everybody in Snort Korea, the people who actually like him, are going to give their support as they usually do, and everything's going to be cool. And everything's going to get to be segregated. There we go. Everything gets to be segregated. But the reality is that there's barely anybody on YouTube except for the usual suspects. And then everybody else is pretty much on Kick. Hell, there are people that were on YouTube who created new accounts just to go over there to Kick to fucking chill over there. Like, if you really want to tell the truth about DSP and what you really feel, you move from your YouTube account, you jump over to a Kick account. Hopefully you're smart and don't use the same goddamn name, and you shit on them over there. It's the best way to go about it, because you'll get blocked in a minute on YouTube. So it is what it is. He keeps them around, like I said earlier, to show that he actually has engagement, to show that there are actually people there. to make him not look like a complete total loser, despite the fact that he can't even hold on to 400 people with over 2 channels. That's fucking ridiculous. That's fucking ridiculous.
I actually get the Kick Partner Program, so why would I be angry about that, right? Now, like I said, if it gets to the point where it's really bad personal insults, where it's things that just aren't allowed, like racism, sexism, doxing.
There's plenty of racism over there. People have been doxing his Kick chat. It's fucking like, see, this is why it's unfortunate that Raw Phil's archive is missing, at least the majority of it, I should say. Well, no, it's not, because you would just have to, whatever you can't find on Rumble, you're more likely to find on Odyssey. If you really go back and look through Raw Phil's catalog, you'll find, really pay attention to what goes on in that Kick chat. There's some wild ass shit that's said over there, and DSP ignores it in the same way that he used to do on Twitch. There's a bunch of fucking crazy ass racism and fucking weird ass gay role play and all kinds of nonsense that went on in his Twitch chat, and he let that shit slide. He didn't give a fuck. He would go, I remember distinctly, I was watching a Tevin stream. Tevin was watching him, some dude was throwing the N-word around or something crazy in DSP's chat. Tevin points it out. DSP actually sees it and then immediately turns his head and goes back to playing whatever game he was playing. So trust me, he'll ignore that shit if he needs to. So let's cut the shit. He doesn't give a fuck about racism. The only thing he cares about is anything that makes him look stupid. And even then he has to let that slide. He's not holding 100, 150, 200 people on Kick. He's kind of floating around in like the 70s, in the 80s, really. It could be higher if he wasn't banning all those people or blocking them. But because he's a sensitive little bitch, that's the reason why you have what you have.
I can't have that in the chat. But in general, I just allow it to roll and don't really care that much. And it's fine. I understand that I'm never going to win over those people, right? They're never going to like me. So I don't care. To be honest, you know that most of the people in Kick chat are from.
So why stream on this? Why stream on Kick? And that's where the whole I make money off of them thing comes into play. Because he doesn't want to run from Kick, because he doesn't want to admit that he's a failure and whatnot. And that Kino Casino essentially won the war, which they already did, but he doesn't want to admit it. And then if he leaves Kick, he has to go back to Twitch. And he knows that's what's going to end. The end game's going to be. He's going to go back to Twitch. But he wants to try to hold out as long as he can and come up with all these reasons and excuses until all of his options are exhausted. He's going to go back to Twitch. He will eventually go back to Twitch. And he's just doing everything in his power not to. So if he has to be humiliated on Kick day in, day out to prevent him from going back over there, he will. And then he's scared. He's scared of what Twitch is now and whatnot. He doesn't have the benefit of the doubt anymore. There is no, gaming doesn't really run that site anymore, which you would think would be better because it's a much smaller pool for him to be able to tread water in. But he's scared that every little thing that he does on YouTube or any other site will come back to haunt him, which he should be scared. He should be scared. Everybody loves their cowards to be in one little place, isolated and frightened, as he should be.
Kino Casino. That's how I originally started getting exposure on Kick, and that's who originally started watching me.
See, actually, sorry, I didn't even realize that he actually admitted that. Here.
In Kick chat are from Kino Casino. That's how I originally started getting exposure on Kick, and that's who originally started watching me. So the funny part is
that's why it's literally explaining to you why he can't leave. Because everything he quote unquote has, everything he's built was literally basically given to him by Kino Casino. He's like Veto. Veto the fucking pedo from fucking Biggest Problem in the Universe and whatnot, which I can't wait to see Veto fucking tank that shit. Actually, I got like 2 videos coming down the line on that shit. Veto might be my new punching bag lol cow for a little bit. We'll see how this plays out. But we'll see how this plays out. But in any case, let me try to control my evil laugh. He's a lot like Veto the pedo, where he can't sit there and leave Kick, because if he does, it'll prove that he never built anything and he was just there on somebody else's charity. In the same way that Veto oh shit. In the same way that Veto wouldn't just pick up and leave Biggest Problem and let Dick Masterson just kill it off. Instead, Vito's going to pay 25% to a dying show and whatnot for a Patreon that's going to eventually dry up and just go over there to the Dick show anyway. And Vito's going to be stuck slaving away for the next year or two, trying to get whoever's willing to tolerate his ass and whatnot, and literally giving up pretty much whatever he has left to Dick in the end anyway. But because Vito's never done anything on his own, he needs the show. He needs Dick's name to be attached to the show. And when, because it's the only thing that keeps him relevant, which is crazy, given all the shit that he ain't said about fucking Eric July over the last 2 years. That's fucking nuts. That's fucking nuts. You know what I'm saying? So, and then ironically enough, when it comes to Veto and Dick, Dick never thought Veto would take the deal. Literally, Dick Masterson thought Veto would say, you know what, just go ahead and shut it all down, man. And like I said, I'm just gonna go off and do my own thing. I'm gonna try to be a man and stand on my own too. And that's that and the third. That's what Dick Masterson really thought. That's why he asked for 25%. Then Veto, being the coward that he is, took the deal because it was the only thing that kept him close to Dick. That's funny saying it that way, but it's the only thing that kept him close, is keeping him close to Dick Masterson. Now keep in mind, he can't go to Dick Masterson's house no more. Like, he's not even allowed to go to Dick's house anymore because he kept showing up when Dick told him not to. Plus 80s girl is probably like, he's a pedophile and he threatens to rape women. Why would you want him around me or our child? So Dick obviously was like, well, you know, she said so that's a thing. And that he's not productive anyway, meaning Veto. So there's no reason to have his ass around. But Veto can't give it up because Dick Masterson is the only thing that's made him relevant. If not, if Veto and Dick Masterson never existed with that whole biggest problem in the universe, how would you know about Veto? Oh, he threatens to rape women online. He threatens to rape kids online of the people that he don't like. He's a shitty comedian out of LA or wherever the fuck he congregates from. You wouldn't know him for anything else but those things. That's why Veto fought so hard to keep Biggest Problem going and did all his lame ass gaslighting, all that dumb shit. Him and DSP have a lot in common. A lot in common, surprisingly. Anyway, semantics. We'll worry about that later.
So I absolutely have had my audience grow. If you actually take a look at it, like when I started streaming on Kick, in general, I get 50 to 70 viewers. Now on average on a day, like I'm just curious, what are we doing right now?
That should be right there on your dashboard. I don't even know why you lying like this, like you don't know what's going on. These screenshots are fantastic though. Holy shit.
153 viewers. I've doubled my viewership. I have literally doubled.
That's what you have right now. You're not gonna be able to hold it. As soon as the Bottom Bitch podcast or the daily therapy session or the morning slop is done with, that's gonna tank by half. So what are you talking about?
My viewership on Kick since I started streaming on Kick. That's cool. I certainly can't say that about YouTube. But on Kick, I actually had some growth. Now,
but wait, I thought you had a bunch of growth off YouTube after you got rid of Raw Phil. Now he's admitting that there was no growth on there, or there hasn't been really much growth on YouTube, and only Kick is carrying the day. Isn't that weird? That's strange. Because I thought when his biggest restreamer was gone, he doubled his views, proving that he was right the entire time. Now he's saying that there is no growth on YouTube, and Kick is really what's carrying the day. It's almost like he's a pathological liar and you shouldn't believe anything that he says.
It is a lot of toxic, negative people, but it's still growth. So.
Wow. And this goes back to what I told you earlier. It doesn't matter if it's good publicity, bad publicity. It doesn't matter. As long as he has something, as long as he gets something, he'll settle for it. But allegedly people are jealous of this? Make that make sense.
Since I started streaming on Kick. That's cool.
Crazy word.
I certainly can't say that about YouTube, but on Kick, I actually had some growth. Now, it is a lot of toxic, negative people, but it's still growth.
That's pathetic. That's pathetic. Oh, yeah, I beg for money in this, that, and the third, but it's still money. And when I go to the grocery store, they still accept it. So who cares how I get it? It's still money, right? And you see how that reinforces, oh, it doesn't matter if it's the truth or not. An answer is an answer. Yeah, it doesn't matter that I lied to you for multiple hours or multiple days or multiple weeks or multiple years. An answer is still an answer. You see how his psychopathy works?
So, who am I to complain, right? Again, I don't mind it, and I've already said it, that if you want to troll me and you want to be with that rowdy crowd, Kick is the place to do it. Just don't go too far. We can't have insanely personal insults about my wife and family members. You can't be bringing up shit like that. You can't dox. You can't say the N-word. People
like, and that's another thing too. I'm gonna talk about this. If this video that I'm about to tell you isn't out yet, it will be soon. I'm gonna talk about how DSP went on that rant about the R word, and I'm gonna tell you about how he fights so hard to say the word retard because he can't say the N word. But everybody else who he looks up to or who does content that he actually wants to do, they can. And that's really what the R word is. The whole thing about him defending the R word is his frustration for not being able to say the N word. So you can't take this thing from him, right? Because you guys have already cut him off, or you guys won't let him say this thing. That's all it is. Because it's funny how when it always comes with the slurs, the N word is the first thing that comes to mind. Like there isn't a slur for anything and everything else. That's fucking crazy. That's fucking crazy. And that tells you exactly why he's so hyper fixed on it. I'll give you a really good example and then we'll move on. The situation with Medicare. This is when DSP was initially wanting to do an interview and Medicare had threw his name in the hat. Well, one of DSP's retorts for not wanting to do the interview with Medicare at that time was, oh, he says the N-word. So I can't do an interview with that guy. He's known for saying the N-word and shit. Then he goes on further and says, well, how is it that he's able to get away with saying that? Why is it that no one has a problem with him saying? He goes into like a small diatribe. It might have been only a few minutes. I'll try to find that clip. I don't think I'll be able to insert it here, but I will look for this clip though, because I'm gonna need it. I may need it for later, where he basically asks, how is it that this guy says the N-word and he can kind of get away with that? And he basically stopped short of saying, but I can't say it. It was really, really interesting. And I remembered back then, I was like, oh, that explains what your problem is. And that yet again goes back to why he needed Kino Casino. Because if they say it, okay, fine, they say it, but he didn't say it, so you can't condemn him for anything that they say. So he can reap all the benefits without dealing with any of the repercussions. He's just there. And that's why he didn't want to do anything. That's why he was essentially sandbagging the entire time while he was with them. He wanted them to take all the risk. He wanted them to be the bullet sponges while he gets to walk away clean. Something to think about.
What it is you give an inch and they take 10 miles, right? Oh, Phil's not moderating the Kick chat? Let me go in there and just type the N-word 17 times.
Which they've done. And he did nothing about it.
No, you can't do that.
They've literally done it. So what are you talking about? He actually stared at it when they did it and he let it go. And he let it go because he don't have a problem with it. He's just not brave enough to do it himself. Like, you're at the bottom of the fucking barrel. No one cares. You know what I'm saying? Like, all them years ago when fucking, during the Boulder stream, when Ethan Ralph, at that time, right before he hit his final form, basically told Monday Matt, why are you playing this nice guy shit, this, that, and the third? They're never going to let you be on those big shows. You're never going to be mainstream. You're never going to be any of those things. You know what I'm saying? So why not just be honest and tell people what you really feel and how you feel? This was over the polar bear situation. For those of you who know, you know, and whatnot. And the reason why is the reason why Monday Matt wouldn't just embrace that shit. He'll do it in Discord when he thinks he's not recorded, but he won't do it publicly. Is the same reason why DSP do. He feels that way. He literally, like Monday Matt hates black people. Holy fuck. He is an avid racist, but he's not man enough to say it. He's not man enough to say that. At least not publicly. He'll say it in Discord all day, but he won't say it publicly. But that's how he really feels. And Ralph was right. You're never gonna get past where you're at. You're already compromised. So you might as well just be honest. But the thing is Monday Matt, especially at that time, really thought that if he could just break that one story, or if he could get just the right person to watch him, everything can turn around. Just like DSP. All it's gonna take is that one game and enough coverage and maybe a couple of big ups from some big YouTubers for him to turn everything around.
Really stupid people, right? But, you know, as long as you're in there and you act at least semi-decent. And the thing is, some days the Kick chat's nice. I'll be honest, some days it's actually quite pleasant.
That's gay as hell to say some shit like that, but all right. That's gay as shit.
They actually have a lot to add. They say nice things or whatever. And yes, there are people on Kick who are supportive. I get kicks, I get subs, right? I do. So it is worth it 100% to have the kick chat. It is. All right. Cool. Okay. Let's see here.
That's lame. All right, so there you guys go on that. Holy shit. Sorry, I did not expect it to go that long, but I've recorded a little while, so I had a lot to say. So there you go on that. Stupid is as stupid does. Holy shit. Stupid is as stupid does. All right, so big up some Raw Phil. And let me give you guys closing thoughts, and then I'll let you guys go. All right, so as it pertains to forcing people to like him or making people like him or whatever, it's the cries of a lonely person. It's the cries of someone who can never fully trust anybody and is struggling with the idea that his own actions have caused other people not to trust him. And he'll never really be able to conceptualize why that is. And so be it. You know what I'm saying? To be honest with you, DSP has never been a trustworthy person, whether it is learned helplessness or just being a worthless individual, or even a combination of the two. It doesn't really matter. He's a destructive individual to everybody who's around him. And it is what it is. You should never feel like you should be forced to like someone, or even forced to associate with someone or interact with people. I don't. You shouldn't either. You shouldn't go out of your way to have to deal with people. That's not a way of doing things. Now, don't get me wrong. You're going to have to move around people you don't like or whatever. But I've never been in a position where I felt like I was forced to like somebody. That's retarded. That's dumb. You don't have to do that, nor should you. There's never a justification for that. And only weak people say stuff like that or think that way. So there's that. As it pertains to Kick, this kind of coincides with what I just said. It's crazy that he'll just accept the negativity because he has nothing else. But then if you go back to Twitch all them years ago, he used to get troll donations all the time. He used to accept it. He used to deal with it. And then he got more and more bitter. He got more and more disgruntled. And instead of just taking that passive income and fucking off like he tries to do now, he's a bitter little bitch, and he sat there and ran them all off. And even at that time, Twitch was already dying out theoretically, because yeah, he had less people watching him, but he was getting more money, right? Towards the end of Twitch, I should say. He ran off the majority of the trolls, or they just went to alternative. That's when the restreaming game really got big. So they just ran off over there, or he had already banned or blocked them. And so the dents that were there were forced to give more money more often, even though the viewership was drying up. And he never really was able to recover. Even after all these years, he never really recovered from those last dying days of his Twitch run. Kind of like the last days of The Rock. You know what I'm saying? Big up to Choke, no joke. For those of you who know, you know. It's like that. It's legitimately like that. It's a telling situation where you can't take a clean thing out of an unclean thing. He was always a negative piece of shit, and that's all he ever propagates. It's all he's ever going to propagate. Just accept it and just profit from it any way you can. He still wants to come across clean, but he still wants to engage with the bullshit. He still wants to engage with the negativity. You've done that for almost 20 years over multiple sites and over multiple communities, and you failed each and every time. And the sad part is, if I had a conscience, by the way, but the sad part is there is no end game. There is no second chance after this. If the streaming game, because the YouTube game's done, him putting up videos and people giving a fuck about that shit, that's dead. Once the streaming thing is done, it's done. And as someone pointed out just recently, fucking A, it might have been Hassan Piker's golden retriever, Ludwig, who said that streaming isn't content. Streaming is just that. It's just it's like a live performance that you're supposed to cut up and turn into content later. DSP's never figured that out. If the streaming shit dies for him, he's got nothing else. Once this card thing fizzles out, what's going to be in the next scam? It's about as good as it's going to get. Is it as lucrative as Vestreak? Kinda. I would probably say it's probably been a lot more lucrative than Vestreak, and it may even outlast Vestreak. But I think it's also going to put him in an even further deficit. Because whereas Vestreak was used as a humiliation ritual daily to fuel his WWE Champions addiction, you're now seeing, excuse me, and in closing, you're seeing these cards fuel the card addiction, right? Where instead of using these cards and the money made from them, or the capital, if you will, raised from it to better his living condition, better him and his wife and his cat's health, to invest in something else, in actual retirement, he's turned the investment into the addiction. And he's stuck. He's literally stuck. And that Greninja, it's not the one that he has, but there's another version of it that just sold recently for like $3,000. And while DSP's little card that he bought single, that he purchased the single card, it's literally tanking. It's wild. He could have probably have sold that card a few weeks ago and probably had made $1,000 off of it. But he's so hyper focused on what that card site tells him, and he's not actually looking at the market. He could have been offloaded that card for a couple $1,000. Well, for at least $1,000. But he wasn't going to, because that right there proves success. It proves that he can get lucky. It proves that good things do happen. We'll save that for another video. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for listening, and take care of yourselves. This has been, I'll name this segment later, GTG Spit Say Grease. I'm gonna get out of here because I'm not gonna talk your ears off. Take care of yourselves, take care of yourselves, people. Later.